Senator Hickenlooper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you all for being here. Dr. Pincus, several Colorado institutions are actively conducting research to advance the Department of Defense's 24 Arctic strategy. Center for National Security Initiatives at CU Boulder launched into sensing technology, energy, cybersecurity. The Center for Combat Medicine and Battlefield Research at the Medical Center at CU Anschutz is taking a leadership looking at Arctic casualty care for warfighting that's there. Dr. Pincus, how can we continue to foster partnerships between the Department of Defense and the academic and research community on these, to support these national security efforts in the Arctic?
Thank you, Senator, for that question, and I appreciate you flagging the strong connections and support between the Department of Defense and our research and academic institutions, which has played out particularly in the polar regions. Both the Arctic and Antarctica have long been places where there's been close cooperation between U.S. science institutes and the U.S. military, and that has redounded to the benefit of the United States. We have world-leading scientific capacities. We have a technology-based economy, and that comes out of decades of support for basic science and research, and also, all of the tech spin-offs that come out of that. And so I think, you've listed a couple of examples of research efforts that are likely to provide economic benefits as well as military advantages. I think that's always been very important. Militaries must constantly innovate to dominate. And, the polar regions are places where that's especially true given their unique challenges.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that. And certainly, I remember 30-some years ago, some of the scientific research into the Arctic was derided as being useless. And the scope of history requires us to keep looking and being curious. I had a friend who was a geologist who cross-country skied across Greenland in 1985. It's pretty flat, at least until you get to the coast. Dr. Mukasey, obviously we talked about the critical and rare earth minerals that are at Greenland. However, as you've mentioned, they're mostly locked in the ice. The cold weather and winter mining, you really can't do it too much in the winter there, it's so cold. The U.S., one of our great advantages against China and Russia has always been our allies, our network of alliances and partners, many of whom have extensive mining experience. Canada, excuse me, Canada obviously has a lot of experience in coal mining, Japan, seafloor mining. How might the new critical mineral mining ventures in Greenland benefit from that shared expertise?
Good question, Senator. Unfortunately, most of the downstream, which is the processing capabilities in the world, are located in Southeast Asia, and specifically China. China prohibits their researchers and professionals from doing this in other countries. So even if Greenland, in an alternative universe, if the United States said, hey, we want your help, they wouldn't give it to us just because it's prohibited. There is expertise in Africa. There's expertise in South America. But again, it depends on the type of mining you're referring to. So for example, there is significant expertise around the world in base metals. So copper, aluminum, things like that, no problem finding expertise anywhere.
Right.
When you start getting into the critical mineral area, as I said, most in Southeast Asia, but specifically some in Europe. So they, in my opinion, would have the expertise available, but in limited.
I understand what you're saying. It's complex. It's not easily accessible.
Yes.
Got it. Dr. Mercer, as you know, Arctic research in remote, austere environments through the National Science Foundation, through NOAA, requires, again, close collaboration with our partners, our allies. The funding freeze issued by the Office of Management and Budget could really disrupt some of these research efforts. In the Bipartisan CHIPS and Science Act, the Congress directed the NSF to create an Office of Research, Security, and Policy, responsible for identifying and addressing security risks that impact research integrity of the U.S. projects. In your view, does the increasing presence of China and Russia in the Arctic region show or create any new research security risks that Congress should be especially vigilant about?
Thank you for your question. The Office of Polar Programs in NSF works in close partnership with our Office of the Chief of Research Security Strategy and Policy. NSF is also a member of the National Counterintelligence Task Force to work with the intelligence community and law enforcement partners on research security issues. It's something we take very seriously. But as far as the rest of your question, I'd be happy to take that back to NSF and potentially arrange a conversation in a different setting.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I yield back to the chair.